We come before the sacred text with a direct inquiry of physical and spectral boundaries, asking how the distinct ultraviolet fluorescence and spectral signatures of the image fibers, clearly separable from blood, scorches, and water stains, differentiate the discoloration process from any known thermal, chemical, or artistic technique. The mathematical verdict computed by the workstation stands in the affirmative, confirmed by a strong anomaly reading across multiple independent channels. In the architecture of the metrics, the Dominion Triad of identity, inheritance, and priesthood converges at nearly 29 sigma above the corpus baseline, accompanied by complete multi-channel alignment and strong pattern polarity. Yet we remember that the workstation does not speak in place of the living spirit of Elohim. The numbers simply bear witness to an ordered, non-random signal, calling us to listen with reverence to what the biblical text declares concerning boundaries, purity, and consecration. The inquiry opens upon the lead scripture, Numbers chapter 36, verse 3, where we read, "And will be put to the priestly inheritance of the tribe where they are received, so it will be taken from the lot of our covenant inheritance." This lead verse establishes the fundamental law of uncorrupted boundaries. An inheritance that has been consecrated to a specific tribe must not be mingled, blurred, or transferred across forbidden lines. In the physical realm of the linen fabric, this principle of preservation governs every microscopic fibril. The image discoloration is not a chaotic spread, nor an invasive contamination that dissolves the boundaries of the cloth. Instead, it respects a strict, measurable demarcation that separates the image formation from every surrounding substance, whether it be applied blood, thermal scorch marks, water stains, or artificial artistic mediums. When we consider the blood upon the fabric, the biblical corpus treats blood as a physical, covenantal seal, applied with specific intent and enduring permanence. As written in Exodus chapter 24, verse 8, Moses took the blood and ritually sprinkled it on the people, declaring, "The blood of the covenant that YHWH has made with you concerning all these words." Under microscopic examination, blood behaves according to the natural laws of liquids and porous fibers. It coats the threads, saturates the yarn bundles, and penetrates deeply through the full thickness of the weave by capillary action. Under ultraviolet light, blood does not fluoresce, but absorbs the light, appearing dark and non-reflective. The image discoloration, however, does not behave like a liquid. It does not soak into the fibers, nor does it penetrate beyond the outermost crown fibrils. The blood was deposited upon clean linen as a distinct substance, and the image discoloration does not exist beneath the blood crusts, demonstrating that the blood was present first and that the image process affected only the exposed surfaces without disturbing the chemical composition of the blood. The sacred text also speaks of fire and burning, presenting thermal action as an invasive, consuming force that breaks down physical substance. In Genesis chapter 19, verse 28, the scriptures describe how the smoke of the land ascended like the smoke of a kill. When fire or extreme heat scorches a natural cellulose fiber, it causes thermal breakdown, pyrolysis, and structural degradation through the core of the yarn. Under ultraviolet excitation, scorches from fire emit a strong, characteristic red and orange fluorescence, caused by pyrolytic degradation products and furfural derivatives. Yet the image fibers display an entirely opposite signature. Under ultraviolet light, the image discoloration does not fluoresce at all. Rather, it quenches the natural background fluorescence of the aged linen. The image fibers show no thermal breakdown, no melted structures, and no signs of heat cracking or pyrolytic destruction within the cellulose core. The discoloration process did not operate through convective heat, conduction, or a furnace scorch. Furthermore, the inquiry examines whether artistic techniques, dyes, or chemical washes could account for the discoloration. The sacred text repeatedly demands purity and the absence of deceitful mixtures. In Leviticus chapter 22, verse 4, the law commands that whatever is unclean shall not touch or partake of holy things until it is cleansed. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 28, the apostle instructs that conscience must remain uncompromised before the fullness of the earth. When an artist applies pigments, inks, or chemical mordants to linen, the liquid medium naturally flows between the fibers, creating capillary bridges, crusts, and cementation that bind adjacent threads together. Paint and dye leave behind measurable particles, chemical carriers, binder matrices, and directional brushstrokes. Microscopic and spectral analysis of the image reveals none of these artistic characteristics. There are no pigments, no carrier oils, no binders, and no cementing together of fibers. The discoloration is confined exclusively to an ultra-thin layer on the primary cell wall of the outermost flax fibrils, measuring only 0.2 to 0.5 of a micron in thickness, while the inner core and the medulla of each fibril remain entirely white and untouched. Chemically, this ultra-thin coloration consists of conjugated carbonyl groups formed by the dehydration and oxidation of the linen cellulose itself, rather than any foreign additive, chemical wash, or organic dye. This extraordinary surface restriction corresponds to the theme of priesthood and consecration that resounds throughout 67 verses of the draw. As the prophet writes in Isaiah chapter 61, verse 6, "But you will be named the priests of YHWH. Men will call you the servants of our Elohim." A priestly garment in the service of the sanctuary was strictly regulated, kept free from foreign dyes, improper mixtures, and unclean adulteration. The image on the linen possesses that same character of setting apart. It is an intrinsic alteration of the primary cell wall alone, leaving the structural integrity of the flax intact and defended from invasive breakdown. At the same time, we must maintain pastoral sobriety and heed the tensions within the text. In Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 1, the prophet warns that the covenant transgression of the people is written with a stylus of iron, and with the point of a diamond, engraved upon the tablet of their heart and upon the horns of their altars. There is always a danger when the human heart turns physical marks, relics, or mathematical markers into an object of veneration, falling into the snare of trusting the sign rather than the living Elohim. The workstation metrics and the physical fibers are not our inheritance. YHWH himself is the inheritance of his people. The physical data can describe the boundaries of the cloth, but true faith rests in the word of covenant truth and in the appointed season of his working. In direct answer to the question brought before the text, the distinct ultraviolet fluorescence and spectral signatures clearly differentiate the discoloration process from any known thermal, chemical, or artistic technique. The image fibers do not exhibit the red and orange fluorescence of thermal scorches, nor the capillary penetration and deep saturation of blood and liquid stains, nor the particulate binders, cementation, and foreign chemicals of painted artwork. Instead, the discoloration is strictly confined to an ultra-thin oxidation and dehydration of the primary cell wall of the linen, leaving the underlying cellulose unaltered and unburnt. The physical evidence and the biblical testimony unite in confirming a process that is entirely unique, separated in boundary, and distinct from any known artificial method. The verses drawn in this altar of reception session were Numbers chapter 36, verse 3, 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 49, Leviticus chapter 22, verse 4, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 28, 1 Chronicles chapter 11, verse 3, Hosea chapter 8, verse 1. This concludes today's interpretation at the altar of reception.